Hey everybody, back with another video, and today's topic is staying in your own lane in benzo withdrawal. So I'm not sure about you if you're like me, but I've spent a lot of time over the years comparing myself to other people, other people's withdrawal time, other people's taper time, other people's symptoms. And more than just like finding out that my symptoms are normal, which is super important, obviously, like there's so much chaos going on in our bodies through this process that obviously we need to check in and, find out, is this normal? And so asking what other people's symptoms are, that makes it super helpful. But more than that, I've really almost like in the past kind of compared myself to others, hoping that maybe my story would be like theirs. Like if I found somebody who was a really quick healer, especially in my taper, I was like, okay, I'm going to do everything they did. Like they did a really slow taper, I'm going to do a really slow taper. They're doing this kind of exercise, I'm going to do that kind of exercise. They're drinking no coffee, I'm not going to drink coffee. They're eating this diet, I'm going to eat that diet. So really kind of like going over to what they're doing on their side of the street, feeling like if I just mimicked that I would have their same story. Another thing is to kind of, I think because we have so much vicarious suffering and trauma in the community, it's easy to kind of absorb other people's trauma into yourself. I mean, we're so sensitive. So kind of like over empathizing with somebody. If somebody's really, really suffering, I would start to really, really suffer. It's that kind of, like the mirror neurons where we're having empathy, but it's almost like too much empathy. Another way is that I've experienced in the past is trying to find what somebody in the community calls like our twin, like our benzo twin, somebody who's got the exact same story as me, so that I can, feel comforted and feel comfortable that I've got somebody who's, I know somebody who's got the exact same situation that I have. And there was a point, especially during my taper, where I was living so much more in other people's stories, other people's suffering, and thinking that was going to be my story. That was going to be my suffering. They have these symptoms, I'll have these symptoms. They healed in this amount of time, I'm going to heal in this amount of time. And losing track of what's actually going on with me. And I had this recently come up again where I was, talking to a couple of people that were having, have been going through a setback, and like one person's like healing faster than me in the setback and starting to feel kind of bad about myself about that. Like, wow, watch them go. They're healing and they're doing all these things. And I'm like, oh, I feel really bad. Or another person who's, years from their setback and being like, oh my God, like just the fear and the anxiety that's going to be me. And so I'm kind of sharing my thoughts on this because every time I do that, I lose focus on what's going on right here, staying in my own lane. And that's kind of, I know that expression is probably used a lot, but I've heard it a lot in 12-step programs, like stay on my own side of the street, stay in my own lane. And it used to be such a mantra I had to tell myself that I wrote it on a Post-it note and like put it up somewhere, like especially during my taper when the world of withdrawal was so new and crazy and bizarre and like outside of anything I'd ever experienced. I just didn't know who I was, where I ended, and where somebody else began. I had a lot of psychological and emotional dysregulation, more so during my taper than I did post-taper. Post-taper has been mainly physical. So at that time, it was really hard for me to like kind of know like my own boundaries. So yeah, that's just a topic that I wanted to shout out is, and so what are some of the ways that we can stay in our own lane? Well, one thing is that just remember, like, your story is not going to be like anybody else's story. I've said this before in other videos. We are 100% different from the person sitting next to us, you know, because we have our own physiology, we have our own genetic history, cultural history, our complete unique landscape as, you know, an individual snowflake. So you're never going to be like somebody else. Are you going to share things in common? Sure, you can have things in common, but you're not going to be them. You're not going to be their story. You also, you know, for me, like, we don't have to save anybody. And that was something, you know, as kind of like a recovering codependent, I had to learn, and it was a huge wake up call for me. I can't save anybody and help them and reduce their suffering. I wish I could. When I really got that lesson, I was able to stay a little bit more on my side of the street, because there was definitely a time when I came into the community where I just wanted to like take everybody under my wing and talk to people and, you know, answer phone calls and be available. And I realized that that was taking so much energy from me. And I learned how to be selfish. I'd never been able to be selfish before. I was always like, give, 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 give. But then I wasn't staying in my own lane, and I didn't have time for me. And I learned how to say no. You know, I'm not going to friend you on Facebook. We can message, and maybe I can, you know, give you a couple resources. But I'm not going to be your BFF. I'm not going to accept a phone call from you. I've had to turn people down and learn that I have to stay right here because I'm still healing. Maybe later on when I'm fully healed, I'll come back and like make a career out of it or something. But even then, I highly doubt it. But yeah, so we have to be, I think, mindful of how much we are blending and merging into other people in the community. And I honestly think this is part of the brain damage. I don't think that, you know, as you heal, you're going to have, or myself, as I've healed, I have not had as much porous energy with other people. I think that's part of this vicarious suffering that we go through. So let me know in the comments if you resonate with this. I'm also looking for suggestions on other topics. So if there's another topic that you would like me to cover, ask me now, because I have been in more of a window and I would like to get some of these thoughts off my chest while I'm in a window, because when I'm back in a wave, you know, I end up just making really poor as me sad videos. My phone keeps ringing. I'm going to grab that, and peace. I'll see you in the next video.